InvestorIdeas.com podcast.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of InvestorIdeas.com podcast. Today's podcast is sponsored by Phyto Extractions Incorporated, trading on the CSE as XTRX, which is an agricultural scale cannabis extraction, distillation, and product manufacturer located in Langley, BC, at its co-located Health Canada licensed standard processing facility for extraction, not cultivation, sales for extracts, topicals, and edibles through Ad Astra Labs, an analytical testing laboratory through Chemia Analytics Incorporated. In today's podcast, going to be looking at a few public as well as private company announcements, looking at APHA Incorporated, trading on the TSX and NASDAQ as APHA, View Systems Incorporated, trading on the OTC as VSYM, as well as Vision State Corp, trading on the TSX Venture as VIS, and the BC Hop Company Limited. First, starting with APHA Incorporated, who announced that it's the holders of the APHA common shares at the special meeting of the APHA shareholders today, approved the previously announced arrangement under the Business Corporations Act of Ontario, pursuant to which, among other things, Tilray will acquire all of the issued and outstanding shares of APHA. So, the special resolution approving the arrangement was required to be passed by at least two-thirds, or 66% of the votes cast, and the total was 99.38 voted for the arrangement. Irwin D. Simon, APHA's chairman and chief executive officer, who will be holding this same role with the combined company, commented, "I want to thank all APHA shareholders for voting and approving the arrangement. We appreciate their support, and as we believe the business combination will create a combined company with a strong financial profile, low-cost production, market share-leading brands, distribution network, and unique partnerships. The combined company will be increasingly well-positioned to deliver a sustainable, attractive return for our combined shareholder base." Now, the closing of the arrangement agreement remains subject to certain customary closing conditions, including court approval and the approval of the Tilray stockholders, which will be later on in the month. So, the combination of Tilray and APHA does seem very much a sure thing at this point, so it should be finalized by the end of the month. Not really seeing any huge gains on either Tilray or APHA stocks right now with the sort of momentum of that combined company. But that will be an interesting play overall, as they'll be a much bigger competitor with companies like Cannabis at the moment. And it'll be interesting to see how that changes with their overall expansion plans into the U.S. In the next year or so. Moving on to View System Incorporated, whose company Cannabis SAS announced the approval by an inspector from the Colombian Institute of Agriculture, or the ICA, of their seed bank facilities in Popayan, Cauca, Colombia. Now, historically, the country's top marijuana growing region. The area is known for their unique landrace strains that have been sought after for many years by European seed banks due to their unique properties, and these approvals allow for the commercialization of cannabis seeds certified by the Cannabis Seed Bank. Now, yesterday, the Ministry of Agriculture's ICA performed a site visit at the Cannabis Seed Bank facilities for approvals to register as a producer of certified seeds and to conduct agronomical evaluation studies, or PEA studies. And Cannabis is happy to report that the ICA inspector has approved both now. They must wait for the final resolution from the Ministry of Agriculture to be issued before they can begin agronomic evaluation studies. They were approved to study psychoactive, so less than 1% THC, greater than 1% THC, and non-psychoactive, less than 1% THC marijuana strains. And studies will begin with their university partners to certify the first 10 strains, including one to produce hemp building materials such as hemp roof tiles. And Cannabis has developed along with a local university, which has passed durability tests. And to see a copy of the reports, you can click the links attached in the article. And as new countries legalize marijuana, they will need to source certified genetics from a national seed registrar, such as Colombian ICA. And Cannabis is in talks with several parties interested in working with them and will make announcements accordingly. And the Ministry of Agriculture is not accepting new applicants for seed use licenses as of December 31st of 2018. These approvals and subsequent seed use license will allow us to forge relationships with many global players looking to enter the legal marijuana industry in their home countries, stated John Campo, the president of View Systems Incorporated and co-founder of Cannabis SAS. And we put many years of hard work towards achieving this goal and are ready to start providing certified genetics possible to customers around the world, commented Juan Paulo Guzman, the director and co-founder of Cannabis SAS. So when you're looking at Colombia, another aspect, definitely not as aggressive as a play as you're seeing from companies like Chiron, from Pharmacielo, from One World Pharma, but it will be an important aspect of that globalized cannabis industry, which is having certified seed banks and genetics. Again, coming out of Colombia, I would expect most of those seeds to be well sought after. That being said, it will be a difficult gain for this company to finalize that approval for their seed sales. Again, when you're looking at Latin America, still very strict on the regulation side, and for obvious reason, they have been heavily impacted by drug wars in the past. So obviously entering into the legalized cannabis market, they want to make sure that they are being as due diligent as possible. So I would expect that this will take some time for them to get that finalized approval. That being said, once that is finally approved, there will be a large market for buying those certified seeds, and especially if they can cultivate some very rare strains. Again, I've talked a lot about how the rarer the cultivar, that's going to continue to be more the element, at least, of the dry herb market, and even looking at the extract market, as those cultivars will have more unique terpene profiles. So more and more you're going to be looking for sort of rare and unique strains on the market, and companies coming out of Colombia or different parts of the world. Again, there is potential out of Africa as well for some amazing seed bank quality programs, and similarly out of Israel, not as aggressively, but I would say the main competitors for sort of the seed bank market will most likely be out of, again, Latin America, and then most likely Africa, as those are two parts of the world that have some very great natural grow conditions, and also have a long history of cultivating rare genetic strains when it comes to cannabis plants out of those parts of the world. So something to pay attention to, though I do think that the cannabis seed bag play is a little bit further out than they would like it to seem at the moment. Looking next at Vision State Corporation, who announced it's created a new corporate entity named Next Vision Incorporated, which is a wholly owned division of Vision State, to develop the Internet of Things, or IoT technology, for the cannabis sector. Now, by incorporating the company's solid know-how from years developing, executing, and selling software solutions for any kind of facility, Vision State identified a need in facilities that grow and harvest cannabis, and to that end has landed a $500,000 contract. Now, Next Vision Incorporated will leverage the IoT platform from their facilities management sector to create new industry sectors. Vision State CEO John Putters explained that there is no question that the IoT technology is increasingly becoming critical to a corporation's operations. Whether it's analytics, predictive maintenance, or introducing new efficiencies in operations, the IoT has demonstrated returns on investment. And for licensed producers, the higher the crop's quality, coupled with cost-effective solutions, the better it is for the producer overall. We're focusing our technology on bringing about those positive results. Now, recently, the cannabis sector has experienced a resurgence of activity as speculation mounts that the U.S. will likely legalize or decriminalize cannabis at a federal level. And meanwhile, the cannabis sector has proven to be immune to the effects of COVID-19, witnessing increased sales and revenues despite the lockdowns that have occurred across Canada. Now, this inaugural contract provides Next Vision the ability to develop a tailored IoT solution for the cannabis sector, and it includes introducing new sensor equipment, designing communication protocols between sensors, and developing a robust data and analytics that provide insight into the efficiency of operations. Monitoring processes and equipment within larger licensed producers will include lighting, heat, and other environmental conditions, as well as the standard procedures that are required to be met by the producers. So, Next Vision, subsidiary of Vision State, focusing on IoT technology. Then the cannabis sector, there's been a few other competitors who have been mentioning bringing IoT technology into the cannabis sector. Haven't really seen any momentum behind that in the past. And even for Vision State and Next Vision Incorporated, great that they've landed this contract. It'll be interesting to see if this actually gets adopted by a series of large-scale producers. I would doubt it at this point, as most of the large-scale production facilities are actually being ramped down, and you're starting to see again the rise of more small to medium-sized craft growers. There is still going to be room for large-scale production facilities, large-scale packaging facilities, etc. I do think that maybe focusing more on the extract market for efficiencies of equipment would be maybe the smarter play. Perhaps that is where they will end up. But I do also think that for a lot of these companies, they've probably already implemented their own efficiency protocols when they're looking at their overall facilities right now, or at least most should have. Again, I always will refer to our interview with Oakham Cannabis, a Kelowna-based company, and their facility, which was wildly immaculate and extremely technology-focused as far as operations and efficiencies were concerned. They had tracking systems and monitors for pretty much every aspect of the grow system, whether it came to lighting, water pressure, water consistency, soil consistency, etc. And I do think that there's room for that within the cannabis space. I just think that most of the companies who have probably implemented systems like that have already done so, and the other ones are probably looking for a more natural approach and a more craft approach, which may not have a need for IoT technology. Lastly, today looking at the BC Hop Company Limited, who announced that it successfully closed a non-brokered 100% acquisition of Flow Scientific Limited. Now, Flow Scientific Limited has been paving the way in the terpene industry since 2016 by creating authentic products that are of the highest quality in their raw form, and Flow Scientific is the innovative secret behind the custom aroma, flavor, and differentiation of dozens of consumer packaged goods in the Cannabis 2.0 and 3.0 marketplace. And they take the fear out of inquiries from Health Canada or by oversight agencies with their all-natural, botanically derived terpenes. As part of the BC Hop Company's ongoing expansion beyond hops into industrial hemp, we are thrilled to bring the Flow Scientific team into the growing BC Hop Company Limited family. And by combining forces, we are taking our partnership in hemp-derived terpenes to the next level. And we're excited about our ability to serve not only the Canadian brewing, cannabis, and agri-food market, but also to serve emerging terpene markets worldwide, commented CEO Dwayne Stewart. Now, terpenes are natural flavors and aroma creators that are a critical part of the product experience for consumers, and naturally derived terpenes are critical to the effectiveness of recreational and medical cannabis products, as well as other consumer packaged good categories. And this acquisition significantly expands BC Hop Company's portfolio and potential in this new and growing market. So I just found that slightly interesting that now you do have a hop company specifically focusing on terpenes. Again, sort of the combination of beer and cannabis is something that's being looked at very aggressively by a lot of different companies. It still hasn't really been implemented to any satisfactory way as far as genetics and overall processing of hemp and cannabis products versus hops. Hops and the hemp plant are extremely similar genetically and extremely similar even in the production of beer. It is difficult to extract sugar from hemp, but there is the company, you can look at a few past interviews with Province Brands. They were definitely on the verge of that. They still have not had their cannabis-infused beverages, cannabis, not really infused, but just cannabis-made beers onto the market. I don't know when that's going to happen or if. Hopefully it will, because they had some really cool products. But I do think that sort of the merging of the craft beer industry and the cannabis industry is an inevitability, especially as the average consumer in the cannabis sector or in the beer sector starts to become more aware of what terpenes are and how they impact a lot of different factors of the sort of consumption experience, but also of general health and wellness. Again, when you're looking at the cannabis industry specifically, I've talked about full spectrum and partial spectrum products a lot and how terpenes are very essential for the effectiveness of cannabis products. The same can be said for other medical elements and even for just the enjoyment factor of other products. So I do think that you're going to have terpenes and breweries become more of a match pair, and hopefully we eventually start to see beer brewed from hemp plants, which again is doable, just more difficult. As I do think that that is kind of where those industries are heading long term. That's all for today's podcast, and once again, today's podcast is sponsored by Phyto Extractions Incorporated, trading on the CSE as XTRX, an agricultural scale cannabis extraction, distillation, and product manufacturer located in Langley, BC, and its co-located Health Canada licensed standard processing facility for extraction, not cultivation, and sales of extracts, topicals, and edibles through Ad Astra Labs Incorporated, and analytical testing laboratory through Chemia Analytics Incorporated. That's all for today's podcast. Potcast is now a certified word trademark on the blockchain through Cognate Incorporated CM certification. InvestorIdeas.com podcasts are also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and TuneIn. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor of this podcast, please contact InvestorIdeas.com. Investor Ideas reminds all listeners to read our disclaimers and disclosures on the InvestorIdeas.com website, and this podcast is not an endorsement to buy products or services or securities. Investors are reminded that all investments involve risk and possible loss of investment. Investor Ideas does not condone the use of cannabis except where permissible by law. Our site does not possess, distribute, or sell cannabis products.